Hi, I'm Jess. Today we're opening up on Ceremony for enthusiasts, iconoclasts, anarchists, and you.
I just think at the moment there's a couple of things. I really kind of celebrate and praise other wedding professionals for being LGBTQI allies and then advertising themselves as being LGBTQI plus friendly and all of that kind of thing. But I do question how are you ally and how are you friendly, and or is that just a line that you put on social media to attract same-sex couples?
So you think there might be a bit of rainbow washing within
I
the
don't
industry?
know. See, the difficult thing is there's no I don't have any evidence of that, so I can't really make that kind of allegation, as it were. But I do. It's to say it's not just in the wedding industry. It's everywhere. When people make that claim on their businesses, I do wonder how are they being an ally, and what are they doing to be an ally? And it might be that they have like somewhere on their websites or somewhere that they have a policy of, what values they hold, or what things they agree to do or promise to do to support LGBTQI people, in terms of making a safe space, and all of that kind of. There is that one element. Another element is when I first started out, I read somewhere on social media from a trans man who said, "Oh, we had to have a fake wedding," or "I'm not going to have a fake wedding. I'm not going to go down that route." And he was calling celebrancy fake weddings. And basically, what he was saying was he wants a real wedding, and I'm going to just use those kind of his analogy, because what the trans community are fighting at the moment is being able to be married and have on their certificate their chosen gender. And at the moment, as far as I believe, and I don't think there has been any change, at the moment they've got to write their assigned gender at birth on their marriage certificate or wherever it is. So I think that needs to be talked about more. I think that needs to be, just talking about allyship, me as a gay man, me as a drag queen, me as a gay celebrant, I should be speaking up and bringing that point up, especially in the wedding industry. Of course, we know our wedding ceremonies aren't fake or faux. It's, we're all about giving people choice, but I very much do believe and get that point of, people being able to put on their certificates or have their marriage recorded as the agenda that they identify with.
I had no idea that was a thing. I didn't know they were doing that.
And now again, I haven't researched it and I haven't kind of looked into it too much. So, but I do know that happened.
I think that might be something that we'll focus on. What I'll do then is I'll read out your statement, which I saw on your website, and I loved it. So you've got brilliant things like weddings of your dreams, blessings on a beach, windings in the woods, classy carousels in a castle, whoever knew you could, rhapsodies by a river, boho blowout in a barn, merrymaking at the manor, fanfares down at the farm, hoedowns in a hotel, gaiety at the golf club. Together we'll craft the perfect ceremony, two proud foxes amongst the hubbub. That's so nice. But there's a thing you've put, which I thought was really great. And I have never thought about putting myself on as, it says LGBT friendly. I always feel uncomfortable just because I feel like it sounds odd to even feel like I have to say such a thing. It almost feels like I'm being patronizing or something, saying, well, I'm LGBT friendly. I'm like, why would I be anything else? But maybe, that's something you could fill me in on, whether that is something helpful. But you've done what makes me Foxy. So you've put, I'm proud of being a former theatre manager, dealing with large events and putting the customer's experience at the centre of the proceedings. I embrace, respect and honour people's lifestyles, beliefs, customs and cultures, which is what enriches our lives and the lives we celebrate. I'm proud to be a drag queen, Maria Hurtz, a drag idol semi-finalist. I didn't even know that about you. And QX Magazine Awards nominee for Best Drag Act and Best Comedy Act. So if you're looking for a drag-themed or cabaret-themed ceremony, I can officiate your wedding as Maria Hurtz. And then you also talk about your qualification in sign language, so you're proud to be fully qualified and registered British Sign Language interpreter. You can officiate ceremonies for deaf couples, children of deaf adults in their first language without them having to rely upon and use an interpreter, which I think is amazing. As you know, I've got a bit of a history with sign language myself. I just think that's so brilliant. So when we find, I'm not sure if that, here it is. I found it. Okay, you ready?
How?
So, yeah. Where is it?
That?
It is under More About My Story. So here's what I think we should all do. On the back of this podcast, I feel like you are teaching me something. So, safe space statement. Now, I've never heard that before. I think it's much better than LGBTQI friendly. Every single one of us, this is what Martin has said. So for our listeners, this is the safe space statement that Martin has written. Every single one of us is entitled to work or relax in a safe space. A space free of discrimination or fear. A space free of bullying and harassment of any kind. We will work together, honouring our differences and celebrating our strengths, individual qualities and contributions, upholding the values of trust, respect and confidentiality. We will treat one another with equality, politeness and respect at all times, and if we are subjected to or witness discrimination, bullying or harassment, we will speak out, knowing that our voices will be heard and we will be taken seriously. Together, we can create a safe space. Martin Fox Roberts, adapted from Equity UK Safe Space Statement. Now, I think you have nailed that. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I've never even read it. I didn't even know it. I've never thought of putting anything on like that. So I feel like, much as it's absolutely not your job to be educating me, I do feel like you have actually taught me something quite important. So, maybe we should, all those of us who really mean it, should adapt that. And it is quite interesting to think about, what do people actually mean when they say that, or they put a little rainbow flag on. I think that's quite interesting.
It's about, for me, it's about giving somebody confidence to be in that space with you, whether that's over Zoom, in the same room, or on a telephone call. So it's I just want my couples to feel comfortable, safe, and confident. So that's, and I just think when I look for business, all right, this is what I'll say, right? So when I have some work done in the home, some building work, DIY work, or whatever like that, I've got a stranger coming into my house, and I'm always a little bit nervous about who this workman or builder is going to be, and are they going to have any judgments about me as a person when they meet this camp little penfoldy guy, and are they going to make any judgments and stuff like that. And when that person comes to the house, I have all of that sat in here. What are they going to think of me? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to put the price up because they can see that I'm gay? Thinking, gay men have loads of money because all of those kind of stereotypical things. You don't have children. So your kind of disposable income is higher, all of that kind of thing. I have all of these things in my head. My God, I think I need therapy. I need to go somewhere. I reckon.
Oh my God, no, but that's so helpful. I didn't know that would. So because I've never had to think that, have I?
Yeah. So, so when I look for builders, I will either, I always Google gay builder or gay handyman, or so having gay friendly is one step towards giving me confidence as a consumer to use you, taking away some of those fears that I have. And so it's the same for my couples as well. And then the next step would be then, like I said before, having some kind of principles or values. So those consumers know where you stand or what you believe in. So like my safe space statement is kind of one of those policies, I suppose.
I saw these brilliant badges that say you can be yourself with me, with a rainbow. But I think it's from Pride, official Pride merchandise or something. And I quite like that because I feel like that applies to everyone, doesn't it? And it's sort of what you're saying, but it's so what's really helpful about what you're sharing is I'm terrible for making assumptions about people and making assumptions based on my own experience and my own belief. I mean, maybe we all do it. Yeah, I suppose that's true. But I do really firmly believe in shaking those assumptions up. And I've made this assumption. I think I've made an assumption that things are much better now and that someone wouldn't have to feel like that anymore. That's just naive, isn't it?
No, it's not naive. I don't think it is naive because I think that's, I think we all like to think that everything is okay now. And this is what I say every time Pride comes round every year, is, people tend to forget that Pride is a protest and that it's a one big celebration, or isn't it funny, or aren't drag queens brilliant, but actually let's go back to the core of what Pride is all about and look about what we fought for. Now, just last week was the 10th anniversary of Same-Sex Marriage Act. It's only been 10 years.
Yeah, it seems so much longer in my mind.
Yeah, and
that's nothing.
It's nothing. And so we've had to fight for those rights. And it's not saying that every gay person or same-sex person should now go out and get married, but it's about having a choice to be able to be married and act upon those own rights. So I've just lost my thread a moment. So it's oh my God, what were we talking? This always happens to me. I go off on tangent.
Well, no, tangents are good. Tangents are my style. You were saying about how you fought really hard, and Pride is not just a celebration, it is also a protest even now. And it's only been 10 years since you've had those rights, and you're not saying people should just go out and just get married for the sake of it.
And that's what I was saying as well. Because talking about the naivety of it, and I don't think it is, because if we look about what's happening in the world as well, I always say just be careful, because we as an LGBTQI plus community, we're on borrowed time, and it can be taken away from us just like that. And we can see that has already been happening in different places around the world. Like look at Texas, look at Russia. It's all these right-winged kind of politics and beliefs. And so if we get the wrong person in here, in the UK, snap of the fingers, and it can all be taken away from us, and it can all be a punishable crime again.
And that's a very real experience for you day to day. And you're even having people in your home is really makes you feel unsafe.
It can do, yeah. It can
not knowing who they will be and how they will be. And I mean, politically, we are quite unstable in this country at the moment. We've already had can you believe it? We got those people. So yeah, we could have anyone, couldn't we?
Yeah.
But it's so, it really makes me think. What you're telling us is so insightful and really generous to share those vulnerabilities. It's really generous, and it helps the world just a lot.
Yeah, and I just think for me being a drag queen celebrant or a gay man, to be it's important for me to be visible, and it's to show that we're here, and not to be invisible and kind of disappear into society and live our lives, but to continually be out there. I mean, outside my front house, I have little rainbow flags. A couple of years ago, I would never have done that, but I really feel it's important that there is some kind of visibility around.
So that's become something more important to you now, since everything's become so right-wing and all that shit going on in the state.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think our community, the LGBT plus community, and the younger generation, is also testing, or not testing, but it is throwing up challenges for some people about the conformities of society and our beliefs. And I think we've got to look at that around marriage as well, and weddings or ceremonies that we provide. So the younger queer generation at the moment, there's a lot more experimental in
polyamory. I have a polyamorous couple coming. Well, they are a couple getting married. They're a throuple. They're getting married as a couple with their girlfriend present next year. I feel so inspired and so humbled to be invited to do that, because now that I've heard you chat, I'm feeling that was a huge act of trust. Not that I didn't know that, but I don't think I understood how real that is, that risk.
Yeah.
But yes, polyamory, fascinating. Yeah.
But it's a popular thing at the moment that we should adapt to, like you have with your ceremony that you're doing. And I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, and I do. I think you're so right. And I think it's easy, isn't it, Martin, to crawl into a hole. Like, the older you get, even if you're LGBTQ, even if, whatever and whoever you are, we can become very stuck if we don't challenge our own assumptions about ourselves, about the communities we've grown up in. And you have, I think it's interesting that people talk about the queer community or LGBTQIA plus community as a community, singular. And of course, that's not true. There are so many different communities within communities with different concepts around. I have a friend, I did a gay wedding last year, and one of the grooms said he's really profoundly uncomfortable with the term queer. But then you get a younger generation that come up. Have you heard that a lot? Is that something you can relate to?
Absolutely. I hate the word queer because that's growing up. That was used against me, and in a derogatory way. I mean, when it started to become a popular term, I still don't call myself queer. I call myself a gay man. But I do accept that I'm part of the overall queer community. So queer for me is more of an umbrella kind of term. But I do accept, or I'm starting to accept, that is a term used for the community.
Even though you're in that community, you're still having to challenge your own feelings around particular things. And so I think I wish sometimes that everybody could sit down and think, this is really challenging my sensibilities. These young people are coming up with completely new concepts about gender, well, not completely new, but they're bringing to the fore pre-existing realities that have been so hidden for such a long time, aren't they? But we didn't grow up with that. I think you're a bit younger than me, but even so, we didn't grow up. What?
50.
Yeah, we're the same.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
I'm a year older. So we didn't grow up with people talking about polyamory or having words for it. We didn't grow up with gay marriage. We didn't grow up with concepts around the binary or gender dysphoria or anything. I mean, there are terms now that even the people that came to me to ask me to marry them next year, they said we're both AFAB. And to be perfectly honest with you, I had to look it up because there's a whole lexicon of vocabulary that we didn't grow up with. And even within your own communities, you haven't grown up with it. So we've got a huge societal shift happening where all these hidden realities are becoming visible. And it is threatening. And I just wish we could all sit down and say, well, this is confusing, hard, interesting. I'm feeling these feelings. Instead of feeling like we have to just be completely okay with the scales fall from your eyes and the world looks entirely different overnight.
Yeah.
And some people adapt. I think some people adapt well. I think some people adapt less well. And that's something that always interests me.
Yeah. And I just think that, you've just, obviously I'm open to it because of the kind of depression and stuff that I've gone through and the bullying that I've gone through. I don't want somebody else to go through that kind of stuff either. So although there might be challenges to about my perceptions, like using the word queer, at the same time, I celebrate and really kind of support all aspects, all parts of the community. We call each other siblings because we're more than a community. We're a family. And
I've never heard that said.
Yeah, so I might talk about my trans siblings, because we have to come together for each other, and if there's coming, just linking back into wedding businesses and industry, there are still people out there who still put up images of a man and a woman as advertising their services in this ivory whitewash beigey lacy kind of way. And all right, that'll attract some people, but society's changing and
we've moved on. We are moving on.
Left behind. But in moving on, it's not easy to move on because there's still kind of all of these kind of fears, and I'm not a strong person. I can't always stand up to depression or whatever. I have other people might be able to and speak out, but that's why it's important that we all support.
But I think you are strong, and I think you are speaking out, but you're doing it in your own style, and that's important, isn't it? You might not be aggressive, but you're very visible and you're very yourself.
Being aggressive or angry, because if you're aggressive and angry, people stop listening, and
that's true.
Put it down to something else.
Yeah,
it's not me with the problem; it's obviously you with the problem.
Yeah, I've actually got a question for you. So the first question is, what do you prefer? Friendly or the term friend or the term ally? What do you think is more helpful?
Again, it goes back to what I was saying about what backs that up. What makes you a friend or what makes you an ally? To me, an ally or a friend would be somebody that calls when they see something wrong, they call it out, or they're with us on those pride marches, or there's people giving or creating opportunities for people who find it difficult to have those opportunities in, say, maybe finding work or So, for example, perhaps a trans person going for looking for a job might have all of these anxieties and worries. But yeah, so it's about I think I know what
you are making sense. You are making sense.
I'm trying to work it out in my own head as I'm going along.
Yeah, well, they're really sometimes these podcasts are the questions are quite difficult to answer. We put on the spot as well. And things come up. I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking very much about white lace and whiteness in general. There are very few images of Black and brown people in the wedding industry. Kind of altered, didn't it, for a little bit around Black Lives Matter, and then seems to have kind of faded a bit. One of the things that I find interesting is that a lot of people that come to me say they want something different. And in actual fact, they want white lace and they want an aisle and they want to be given away by their dads. And it's all really meaningful and all really important. It's just that, what do we mean by different? And I feel like you are a living embodiment of really doing it differently. So we'll come back to how you're disrupting tradition in a minute. I'm going to ask you first of all, tell us about yourself. So a little bit about your background, how and why you got into being a celebrant, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. You see, just ask that one question and I'll just go on forever. Originally, so this accent, first of all, is from Darlington.
Where's Darlington?
So it is... Where's Darlow? Darlow. It's in County Durham, so northeast. And so I was there. I was in theatre. I had my own business in theatre promotions, and I met my now husband, who's deaf, and he's an actor and was already living in London. We had a bit of a fling. I decided to move down to London. And when I came down here, I started working as I actually started working in Bella Pasta as a waiter, and then I some money in.
Very glam.
Very glam. And then I got into theatre management, and as I was there, I was going to night school. I was doing all of my sign language units, learning so I could at least win an argument with my husband. Do you know what he does when we have an argument?
I saw it on your website. He closes his eyes.
His eyes. He gets in, and then I go to have my word back, and he just stands there and closes his eyes. He still does it. Anyway, and then so fast forward a little bit, and it was his. Oh, so when I was acting, I used to do pantomime den as well. And anyway, I gave all of that up. Anyway, for my husband's 50th, I hired Leicester Square Theatre, the studio, not the actual main theatre, and I brought in a troupe called Boylesque, which is a male burlesque troupe, to do a show for us.
Oh my God, that's so fantastic.
And they said to me, why don't you join us and do something? Well, I was like, well, I'm really not going to start taking my clothes off. And there was a drag queen who was their pianist. So I thought, oh, well, I'll do some drag. So I went out there and bought all the stuff and did a bit of drag. And then afterwards, we did. So one of my friends just went, Martin, you should do more of that. You were really good. You should, there's a competition coming up. Go for that competition. So I started going for all of these competitions, and started to get some bookings as performing in drag. And then, anyway, for all of that time, then I'd had to change career, and I was working as a sign language interpreter. I'd gone off and done a post-grad in interpreting. Yeah, so then fast forward a little bit more to lockdown, and I always believe in armouring myself with skills. So during the last not few years, well, I don't know how long ago now, but I've trained as a masseur as well. So I'm a qualified ITEC 3 a holistic masseur, as well as an interpreter, and now a drag queen at this point. And then during lockdown, I wasn't able to do massages. Interpreting all kind of changed onto online meetings and things. I didn't know how that was going to pan out. So I kind of thought, I need to retrain. I need a new skill. So I was just sort of flicking through Facebook, and Celebrancy came up. And I actually wasn't going to go for being a wedding celebrant, first of all. It sounds a bit morbid, but I was going to do funerals. Because unfortunately, weddings weren't happening, but funerals were.
Yeah. So you were going to do funerals, yeah.
Funerals. So anyway, and
this is an editorial decision. I did decide to keep them in the room, so it's my own fault. Right, they're gone. Carry on.
I did some research, and they said, "Oh no, don't do funerals. Do weddings first, because it's all positive. It's all about love. You get to learn the structure, and then do funerals later on." So that's what I did.
Best experience of a ceremony that you've ever had?
So, first one, the both drag you up the aisle ceremonies, I've got to say that. And the first one was for a same-sex couple in Maidstone. And they wanted a topsy-turvy wedding. So they did everything back to front. So they started with the party. So they got family and friends together. They were having drinks. They were having food. Then they called everyone together for the big group photo shoot. And then after that, we went into the ceremony. And as you know, as part of the ceremony, we tell the couple's love story. And so what I did was, have you heard of the shoe game that couples sometimes play afterwards?
No.
So sometimes in a reception, the couples play this game called the shoe game, where they sit back to back and they swap a shoe each. And then you ask questions about who snores the loudest, and then they hold it up. And everyone has a guess as well. Everyone's involved. And anyway, I did that as the love story. So I would go through, and then I would stop, and I would just ask everyone, so who do you think made the proposal, or that kind of thing. And then, so it really had that sense of party all the way through it, because the danger was with it starting up here with the party, and then they just go boom. So the pressure was on to keep it going. But it worked really well, and it was really, really good. And then my second best wedding was just last week, actually. And it was called, and this is what the couple called it, My Big Fat Indian Gay Wedding. And it was same-sex couple again. And obviously one was Indian. The other, it was, I'll say the names, they won't mind, Alan and Matthew. And so it was two cultures literally coming together, and two belief systems coming together. And of course, for one side of the family, it wasn't necessarily homosexuality isn't really kind of accepted. So this was a big thing. And when they told me they want me to do it as Maria Hurtz as well, it was kind of like, are you sure? Do you think the family can take it? And they did, and they took it really well. So, they just went so incredibly well. And that was a massive bit. Everyone was in Indian dress, and they had tradition. They had rituals and traditions that they brought in, and they carried on throughout the whole day. It was just amazing. And then
sounds incredible. And what would you say to this? You know, the Church of England report. Oh, go on, carry on.
And I did it inside as well, because there was a lot of deaf people there as well.
Oh my God.
So I did it in SSE. So that they had the whole shebang from me.
For our listeners, SSE is Signed Supported English, so it's where you kind of support what you're saying, isn't it, with finger spelling and words for deaf people.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my
exactly.
goodness, that sounds incredible. So what would you say then to these people? You know, there's, at the moment, for our listeners, there's a lot of debate around marriage reform and whether people can become licensed to do the legal bit as well as the ceremonial bit. And there's all kinds of arguments, and there are people saying that what celebrants do is frivolous and flippant and just kind of entertainment. And like you were saying earlier, you hate this idea of the fake wedding. I feel like this is really, really offensive, because what you are doing, on the face of it, somebody might look at that and say, oh, it's frivolity, as though that's a bad thing in the first place, which of course it isn't. But when you really look at what you're doing, you're looking at doing something profound. You're doing something which is to do with community building. It's crossing bridges. It's forming relationships across all kinds of different cultural conflicts. It's opening. I mean, that's amazing.
On so many different levels. The groom saw his dad in that particular wedding last week in a whole new light, and had brought them much closer together.
Did you do any kind of Hindu, or what was the religion, the Indian religion that they had?
Smiley. By Smiley.
Did you involve any of the cultural traditions from that, or did you leave those out?
I left them out, and we had a discussion about this with a couple, and said, you know, do you want to incorporate any of those traditions? And actually, a lot of those kind of rituals and things happen like the day before, a couple of days before the ceremony. Then you have the ceremony. Then there's traditions that happen after it. So actually, they kept their traditional rituals separate from the actual ceremony that I did, and I think that was the correct thing to do, because for me to be leading any kind of ritual like that, I think I might have felt a little bit not awkward, but I just think it's, you know, it had to be because it's the family members that do carry out these rituals. So I keep separate, and keeping my ceremony separate worked really well, and I think that was the right decision to make.
And of course that works really well in those cultures because they have so many different ceremonies, whereas we tend to think in white British culture you have the one and that's it, and it all has to have on the same day. And I think when couples say, well, I don't want it to happen on a separate day, I want that one day to be our anniversary. When you really think about it, in other cultures, that's not true. You have lots of different days and lots of different ceremonies. That, in fact, ironically, worked really well. What about your worst experience of a ceremony you've ever had?
Oh, my word. Do you know what? Hand on heart, I don't think I have.
That's brilliant.
I don't think I have had. Hand on heart, I haven't. I've been part of a ceremony where there was a registrar there to carry out the first part, and then I came into the second part. I've done two of those now, where I've worked with the registrar.
I've never done that. Literally never. No, it's never happened.
First time was, I can understand why people won't have independent wedding celebrants, because it was just so kind of boring. I shouldn't say that, but it was just awful, and everyone was so bored, and it was, I know. And she made it all about herself as well, about I'm here and I'm authorized to do this. And now you may kiss. And it was just...
Oh, yeah.
And then, I'm handing over to, for that one, I was marketing for the next part. So yeah, and then, but I did do another one with a registrar, and that she was brilliant. And we had a chat beforehand, and I said I would do the welcome, then she can do her part, and then I will come in and then finish it all off. Similar conversation I have with my husband. And I'll start, she can come in, and then I'll finish it all. And then and that was brilliant. That worked really well. And she even said to me, she said, how wonderful celebrants are. And
I love that you said that, because I really hate this tension between registrars and celebrants, because I also think that I have lots of friends who had registry office weddings and they were really happy with them. And I don't want to be the person that's dissing all of that, because in the end, choice is choice, whether it's choice to have independents or humanists or registrars. Okay, do you have any regrets about your own ceremonies and transitions in your life? Anything that you wish you had or hadn't done?
Yes, and now, my at that time was a civil partnership, because we weren't allowed to get married. And apart from having no bows on the back of the chairs, which was one little regret, and the music going out wasn't loud enough. But anyway, we had a registrar, but come out to a venue. So the venue was gorgeous, and at that time I didn't know about celebrants, and I really wish we'd known about celebrants, because we would have definitely 100% have picked celebrant to do our civil partnership.
What about something that you're really glad you did? That you think, I'm really glad we did that.
I'm really glad that we did have the civil partnership. I'm really glad that we did do it. I'm really glad that we didn't do it in a registry office.
Yeah, because they're quite soulless, some of them, aren't they?
And you feel like you're on a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Because once your ceremony is over, you're thrown out. Well, the one where you go out the back into the garden, quick photograph, and then so the people waiting out the front come in and have their ceremony.
And it's really important for listeners who haven't known what celebrants do to understand that's the difference. If you have a register office, you will be funneled in one side and funneled out the other, and there'll be brides queuing to come in sometimes. I don't think people know that. Yeah, it's like the crowd,
isn't it?
Yeah,
all up the back, and then the next lot are in. It's Well,
let's tell people a bit more about your business now. So you're called Proud Fox Ceremonies. I love that. You're all about Foxy because your name is Fox, and it's just brilliant. Your branding's brilliant. Your design's brilliant. I love you. So tell us about what you hope for within your business. What are you hoping to do? What are your aims within your work?
My aims within my work, I really want to... Oh gosh, there's so many things here.
That's fine. Say them all.
I really want to challenge convention. I really want to be able to give couples choice. I really want to make people think. I want, obviously, people to have a really good time. And I really want to stand up. So going back to what I was saying earlier, I really want to stand up and carry those values of our communities, so other people can learn. But also, so that's all on one kind of level. And then also I've got to say as well, just, I mean, for those of you who can see me, I'm not kind of your fishy kind of RuPaul drag queen. I class myself as the more British traditional style of drag, that kind of Des Lennis. What was it called?
Les Dennis.
What Des? Yeah, I was right. The reason I doubted myself then.
It's because you said Des Lennis and not Les Dennis.
Oh my God, that's the dyslexic coming out of me. I'm sure I am. I haven't been diagnosed.
Are you saying that you're a British drag artist and you have an identity as a British drag artist? Is that true? Is that a thing?
That's for me. For me, it is. Yeah, for me, it is, because I think there's been big kind of influence from America about what drag should be, and what you should expect from a drag queen. Now, I can't do all of those death drops and Vogue kind of dancing and jumping from bars. All right. You're back. Off the bar. But I'm more of a kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of drag queen, really. Yeah.
But you were explaining earlier before we recorded that it's an aspect of your personality that you are just highlighting when you are Maria. It's a part of you. It's not an alter ego, really.
No. And it's funny. I don't really quite like. I don't like that term alter ego. I don't know why.
I don't, and I don't know why I don't like it. But it doesn't work for me either.
Oh.
So this is you dressed up. This is you expressing a part of yourself that is important.
It's important. Yeah. That is. I don't know. It's just I don't know. Yeah, it's just another part of me, I suppose. I probably say things as Maria as I wouldn't normally do as Martin.
Yeah, and what is interesting about you being this aspect of yourself at a wedding and being invited to be there to be who you are as Maria at a wedding is it's absolutely doing all the things that you aim to do, isn't it? It is challenging convention. It is making people think. It is bringing the values of acceptance for you and your siblings and your community. It's allyship. It's all those things, and also tremendous fun.
Yeah.
Let's not forget
that. On the same kind of topics, in a way, as you know, we've touched on it a little bit. I also do my ceremonies in BSL and SSE. And that's so deaf people can have a wedding, or BSL users have a wedding. So when I say BSL users, it's either people in the home, like myself, where BSL is the first language, or people who are what's termed as CODAS, which are children of deaf adults. So they're hearing children, and their parents are both deaf. So they're in a household where sign language is their first language, and sometimes preferred language as well. So it's being able to offer ceremonies where couples can come and have that in their first language and not rely on an interpreter. So, like, for example, when I had my civil partnership, our Neil, my husband, was looking over my shoulder, and an interpreter stood behind me who was interpreting all the stuff. So when it came to our vows, our commitments and vows, and he was saying I do to the interpreter over there. And I was like, hang on a minute. Not her. And it was lovely. We had some really good friends interpret our ceremony, and it was really lovely. But to have it in your first language, I think, is just paramount, you know.
That's such a beautiful thing that you've said. I'm reminded of a ceremony I did last year where the groom was Brazilian. He was living in Britain, and we had Brazilian family there, and we asked one of the friends to interpret into Portuguese. I feel the same. I mean, having worked with deaf people, I fully understand the impact of that and why it's so precious. And to have your language was literally having a voice, isn't it?
But there is a but in that as well, because what I have to be careful of, and what kind of goes against one of my own values in a way, is cultural appropriation. So I'm hearing privileged. I have another language, and I'm benefiting from that. What I want to do, or what I want to see happen, is a time when we have deaf people who are working as celebrants, and creating their own jobs and going out there and doing BSL weddings rather than me.
Yeah, I'm with you. That would be so great.
You know, if I can at least start to get the message out there that it's a thing, then hopefully people will, and then I can take a step back, and will take a step back from that.
Yeah, and that's something that you're really hopeful for.
Yeah, but I'm really aware that it's a very fine line with cultural appropriation. Very aware of that.
Yeah, and I feel that a bit about queer wedding suppliers. I feel if you can have someone who's gay do your gay wedding, that's good. That's better than... But I mean, obviously you also have to have the right person, and there's no guarantee that just because a person is gay that you have something in common with them, and I see that also. But there is a certain level of sensibility and nuance, isn't there, with all of it?
There is, but it's also about style as well. So it might be what you're talking about. It might be that a service provider. Am I going to go all like no? It's what it's not a service provider.
Customer.
Yeah, who chooses I don't know, a celebrant. Let's say a celebrant who's saying they're LGBT friendly or gay friendly or whatever. And they're choosing them, might not be because they've said that they have that as a strapline, but maybe it's because of their overall style compared to somebody who's gay-led or LGBT-led. It might be more about style than... There's different levels, and for me, it could be a deaf couple who want a drag queen and BSL. I don't know any other drag BSL.
I don't think there are any right now. I think you're the one. So if anybody out there is looking for a sign language qualified drag artist celebrant
who can also
that can give you a massage on the way down.
I do offer that to my couples, actually. That's one of my packages.
Really?
Yeah, couples massage.
So really love that.
Stressful, and
people get so stressed, don't they?
Where you are. I mean, I'm not going to go all the way up to Glasgow and do it.
Have you got a bit of a national following already?
Yeah, now I wanted my ceremonies to be kind of local or not to travel too far, but I'm tending to be going to places like Sheffield, Birmingham. I have had inquiries in Glasgow, but I've had 2 people actually wanting me to go up to Glasgow, but when I've had to say it's going to cost, when I've laid out the cost, and I've got to be realistic to myself as well.
Yeah,
it's proven that it's just too much.
Yeah, you have to really charge. You have to really say, I will do it, but I can't for less than, because the cost of travel now is insane. Then you're missing days of work either side because you're traveling, and then there's the overnight stays and all the disruption. So you do have to charge accordingly, and it's very difficult to do that. But I can see you becoming having a bit of a national reputation because it is a niche area, and also because you're so fabulous, and you haven't been doing it that long. So once you get a following, I think you'll get really busy.
Yeah. So 3 years as a celebrant, but this is my second year of actually operating, because I found the first year, I don't know what you were like, or what other celebrants are like, but my first year was very much focused on the website, also the social media kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, branding. I got so fed up of looking at colour charts and things. I just want to see colour. And then And then but then when you get the bookings in, it's always for like the following year. So bookings started in, but it was for the next year. So it's always like, so bear that in mind for anybody that's starting out.
That's good advice. And I think maybe after once you've been doing it 5 years, I think you'll be that celebrant, I think.
Oh,
I mean, you've answered all my questions. We got them all in. Yeah, you did it. That's really good. Yeah, you did. I absolutely loved chatting. It was fascinating, and you're so erudite and so clever, really, and educated and intelligent in your way of looking at things. And I love that, because I feel in our culture that we disregard people who are fun or flamboyant, and we consider them to be only fun and flamboyant. But if you get talking to people, just because we've got brightly coloured hair does not mean we don't have brains. Just because we choose to express ourselves with eyelashes doesn't mean that we don't have academic degrees or backgrounds in professional areas that demand a great deal of thought. So what I love for my community is that they get to see the wholeness of us, that we are all of those things. We're not just flamboyant, as if that's a thing on its own. You've had some really serious life experiences, formative life experiences of prejudice, and you can't live through that and survive it without really trying to understand political structures and where you fit in everything. And I just think you are a fabulous human being. And what's interesting is, as soon as I said to my closest friend that I would be chatting with you, I don't think we'd ever talked about you. She said, "Oh, I love him. He's so great. He's just the loveliest." And I was saying to her that I can't tell you how kind you were to me. And we haven't met yet, and we must, because it's mad not to have. And I'm just so excited that you spent the time with me. I find you inspirational, and not everyone takes time to support a person who doesn't, know where they are at. At that point, I was quite vulnerable. I just moved home and I was starting over with all of this. And you just sat with me, gave an entire afternoon of your time to a person you barely knew, and just sat and listened and encouraged me. And I don't think human beings forget that kind of kindness in a hurry. So I thank you for that.
Oh my God, no. And you're very welcome, because it's, we all need that support, and we all need that. If we haven't got somebody out there to give that support, give that time, or, I don't know, it'd be a very sad place that we live. And I always believe in, leading by example as well. And if I didn't do that, then somebody else wouldn't learn to do that, or see that as a thing to do. And as I said before, our society, our community is changing so rapidly, and we've had we shouldn't forget the knock-on effect of COVID and those 2 or 3 years that have had on attitudes, beliefs, behaviours. There can be some real damage done there. And so I think now more than ever is the time where we need to be tapping into our own kind of self-values, leading by example, and showing kindness and to everybody out there, because there is so much hate out there, and so much fear and hate. I believe hate is fear. That's, and at the end of the day as well, and what I've learned in life is that person that you're shitting on right now could be the next person who's going to be pulling you out of a hole or giving you your next best opportunity. And you never, ever know that. You'll never know that at the time. So, it's it's a real kind of circular thing. And I never stop learning.
Me neither.
And,
Literally never.
learning and being challenged, and having those open chats with people, and being open-minded is so important.